Shalom everybody, we'll do the blessing for the Omer. Baruch atah Yahuwah Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat haomer, hayom yom 31. Blessed are you, Yahuwah Elohah, King of the universe, who's commanded us to count the Omer on this day, day 31.
Shalom, beloveds of the King. Praise Abba Yahuwah. You know, the more that we sit and we read Jeremiah, the more we really come to the understanding of the Father's heart. How amazing it is to be able to be in this time, that we really come to the understanding of the revelation of the knowledge of really coming back to the Father and to His heart, and to understand our Father in a way that we really need to understand. He's a Father that is going to be able to discipline, correct, but then at the same time, He comes to be able to heal, to restore. So He's got to uproot and then He's got to replant. But you know, we want to make Him so one-sided. And our Father cannot be put in our mold and in our box. And so I'm so grateful for Jeremiah, because Jeremiah really gives us a rounded understanding of our Father and of His ways. And so tonight, once again, we're going to continue to read in chapter 33, which is again prophetic utterances, beautiful prophetic utterances, again, of what the Father is speaking, again bringing restoration. And the word of Yahuwah came to Yirmiyahu a second time, while he was still shut up in the court of the gods, saying, so he is now still in confinement, locked up. Thus says Yahuwah, thus said Yahuwah, who made it, Yahuwah who formed it, to establish it. Yahuwah is His name. This is His name. Yahuwah is His name. Not Lord is His name. Not God is His name. Yahuwah is His name. And this is what we must understand. But you know, man has just decided that more than 8,000 times in this Bible, they will take out His name and they will replace it with Lord. And so the Jewish people will take away His name and they will replace it with Hashem, or they will replace it with Adonai. And so where are we today? We sing songs to a Lord and a God that is still not His name, yet He's telling you that thus says Yahuwah who made it, Yahuwah who formed it, to establish it. Yahuwah is His name. So Isaiah chapter 52 verse 6 says, my people will know my name in that day. And so this is the day and this is the hour, as we are nearing near the end, that the Father says He wants truth in the innermost parts, and therefore He's going to expose every lie, and He's now going to be able to establish truth. So Isaiah chapter 52, let's go there. Let's read verses 5 and 6, and it says, and now what have I here, declares Yahuwah, that my people are taken away for naught. Those who rule over them make them wail, declares Yahuwah, and my name is despised all day continually. Why is His name despised? His name is despised because it has been removed. It's no longer there. It's been replaced and it's been removed. He says, therefore, verse 6, therefore my people shall know my name in that day, for I am the one who is speaking. See, it is I. So He's very much in the business right now of making sure that His people are going to know His name. And so this is why He's now speaking to Jeremiah, and He says, Yahuwah is His name. Call unto me. Now listen to what Abba's saying. Call unto me in Jeremiah 33 verses 3. Call unto me and I shall answer you, and show you great and inaccessible matters which you have not known. Do we really call out to him? When we really are in a situation that we don't know which way to turn, do we really call out to him? You know, he's the only one that has the answer for you in the situation where you are in. But we're always wanting to find the answer in every other place. But at the end of the day, he wants us to call out to him. But you see, the problem is when he told the Israelites, come up higher, come up onto the mountain, come up the mountain. You see, because coming up the mountain is the place where he wants to speak to you. And the thing is that we don't always want to hear what he has to say. Because when he started to speak on the mountain, they didn't want to hear what he had to say. And so that is why in this time, the prophets themselves, the people themselves need to come up the mountain so that Father can speak. Father can rebuke if he needs to. Father can correct. Father can show you what it is in your life that is not pleasing to him. And then you come back down the mountain. And then you can come and serve the people and reveal to the people that which the Father has spoken. And that's why he wants you to come up higher. Because only he is the one who's got the answers to everything that we need. Who else has got the answer? There's nothing like getting a word from Yahuwah, because when Yahuwah speaks, it solidifies. Do you understand? It solidifies. The problem is, not many people want to hear what he's got to say. For thus said Yahuwah, the law of Israel concerning the houses of the city and the houses of the sovereigns of Yehudah, which are thrown down against the siege mounds and the sword, while coming to fight with the Kasdim, and to fill their places with the corpses of men, whom I shall strike in my displeasure and my wrath, all for whose evil I have hidden, all for whose evil I have hidden my face from the city. So you must understand, the Father is not going to continue to allow his people to be able to continue to do what they do and think that he's going to continue to turn his face against you. To turn his face towards you. If we continue in our evil, wicked way, eventually he's got to turn his face away. So he turned his face away from that city and allowed the destruction to come. You see, we must understand, he wants to put his fear on us. Like today, I was speaking to someone, and the Father teaches us lessons. And then when we eventually don't do what he wants, or we doubt that it's him speaking, and then we don't do what he says, then we will go through a correction, or things will happen. And then, like I said to her, I said, at the end, you realize that next time you do it his way, because now you know the truth. And you will not disobey again. And you see, this is what we do not understand. Father wants to correct us of our evil ways, but nobody wants correction in the time that we're in. So the minute any person brings a correction message, no one wants to hear it, because no one wants to be corrected. And the first thing that they will say, don't judge. It's not a case of don't judge. It's a case of where we need to be corrected. And this is why it's difficult. We are not called to judge those that are in the world. We're not. Because those that are in the world don't know any better. Do you understand? What do they know? They don't know any better. They behave the way they behave. That's why the Bible says you cannot judge those that are in the world, because they do not have the spirit of Yahuwah. They do not know any better. And that's why Joshua said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But when those are walking with the Father and truly know the Father, and then you bring correction, they don't want to receive correction. So we are a lot of rebellious children that run around because nobody wants correction, because correction is not easy. See, I'm bringing to it relief and healing, and I shall heal them and reveal to them the riches of peace and truth. So this is again prophetic now. Now we enter into the prophetic. So this is again the prophetic utterances that the Father is speaking. Now he says, see. So first he says, I'm going to bring wrath. I'm going to bring this evil. I'm going to turn my face away from the city. And now in verse 6 he says, I am bringing to it relief and healing. And I shall heal them and reveal them the riches of peace and truth. So you see, what is the riches that we should be seeking? Peace and truth. What riches do you want? The riches that this world has to offer you? There's no riches more than the riches of walking in peace and truth. And peace is a person, and his name is Yahushua. And when you are fully in him, and he's fully clothed himself, you are clothed in him, then you walk in peace. You have nothing to fear. You have nothing to stress. You have nothing to be worried about anything, because you totally surrender to him, which means he's the one that gives you peace. And then you walk in truth, because he's the one who leads. He's the one who guides. He's the one who shows. He's the one who will imprint truth within you, the truth that you need in your inward parts. I shall turn back the captivity of Yehudah and the captivity of Israel, and shall build them as at the first. Amazing. If we have a look at that, where did we get this from? Let's go read. We just read this on Shabbat. And where did we read it? We read it in Isaiah chapter 11. So let's just quickly go to Isaiah chapter 11, and let's see what he says here in Isaiah chapter 11. And he says, Isaiah chapter 11 verses 12 to 13, and he turns around and he says, and he shall raise a banner of the nations, and gather the outcasts of Israel, and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. So I need you to understand today that this is not just for one house, which is the house of Judah, which is being gathered in a land right now, because they are the only ones that can prove their so-called Jewishness, a religious stand. But those of the house of Israel cannot prove anything. Yet at the end of the day, they are grafted in to that covenant according to Hebrews chapter 11, according to the fact that they have received Messiah Yeshua. They've put on Messiah Yeshua as the one that has come to write Torah upon the tablets of their heart through giving us the Ruach of Yahuwah. And so he turns around and he says in verses 13, and the envy of Ephraim shall turn aside. So you see, we have envy. Why do we have envy? This is where we are today. And ask me if there's anybody that knows that. I know the envy of Ephraim, because when I was in that land, I envied the fact that why was it that I am not able to live in that land? And I would look at these Russians and I would say, since when are they Jews? And now they can be in the land, and yet I cannot be in the land. And they all of a sudden have been allowed to enter in, but yet why can I not enter in? So I understand that envy. I understand that envy because I lived there with that envy within my heart, because all the time I was upset and I envied the fact that why is it that they can be there and I am not? And yet for me to be there, I would have to be converted, which means I would have to submit myself under some kind of rabbi and come into a religious order in order for me to be accepted into a land that is rightfully my land. And so that's why he says, the envy of Ephraim shall turn aside. So you see, Ephraim doesn't need to envy Yehudah, the fact that they are allowed to live in the land. And the adversaries of Yehudah be cut off. So you see, they've got enemies right now. The adversaries of Yehudah will be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehudah, and Yehudah not trouble Ephraim, because Yehudah troubles Ephraim right now. They do not allow them to enter the land. And if they're in that land and they converted, say now they went into that land and they converted, then they just find out that they follow Yahushua, they throw them out of the land and they trouble them and they come up against them. And so they get highly persecuted, those that are in the land that will have received Messiah. So you see, this is prophetic of what is going on in that land right now. But when the peace comes, when the true peace, the true House of Israel, house of Israel, Ephraim, come together as one house in that land. This is not going to be the order of the day. And then we read verse 16. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, those left from Ashushur, as it was for Israel in the day when he came up from the land of Mitzrayim. So there's going to be a highway, and it's going to be the highway of holiness. And that's why it's going to be a house. And that house is going to be of one mind and one heart. They're not going to be divided in all these different religious sects. They're going to be one house with one heart, one mind. They will all know Yahuwah. They will follow Yahuwah because why? They follow the Messiah wherever he goes. They are set apart by him. So we continue to read Jeremiah 33 verses 8. And shall cleanse them from all their crookedness. So you see, Father is going to cleanse us from all our crookednesses, that they have sinned against me. And I shall pardon all their crookednesses, and that they have sinned, and by which they have transgressed against me. So you see, where we've been transgressing. So Yehudah, that has gone and doing their thing where they will not receive Messiah, and they're adding to the Torah what is not there. And then a bunch of people that are taking away of what is not there. And then at the end of the day, it's squabbling over this and squabbling over that. And when the truth finally comes, we're all going to come into one truth, because there's only one Ruach of Yahuwah. And it shall be to me a name of joy. So look at that. Wow. It shall be to me a name of joy. So then his name will bring the joy, a praise, a pride before all nations of the earth, who hear all the good I am doing to them, and they shall fear and tremble for all the goodness and all the peace I am doing to it. Can you imagine? Oh, there will be a trembling and a fear. What kind of fear is this? A fear is, oh, I'm scared? No, a reverential fear. When you become less and he becomes more, and you start to behold him, the King of glory, and you reverently fear him, knowing his power, his majesty, his might, his glory, who he is, who he truly is, the creator of all things. And now you tremble and you fear. Not the one that was on Mount Sinai that said, well, we don't want to speak to him. We don't want to hear what he has to say. Speak to us rather, Moses. No. We're going to stand in reverence, fear of him, because we love him, because we embrace him, because we want to serve him. Verse 10. Thus says Yahuwah, in this place of which you say, it is dried up without man and without beast, in the cities of Yehudah, in the streets of Jerusalem, that are deserted, without man and without inhabitant and without beast. And there shall once again be heard the voice of joy, the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, the voice of the bride, the voice of those who are saying, praise Yahuwah of hosts, for Yahuwah is good, for his loving commitment is forever. Of those who are bringing the offering of praise into the house of Yahuwah, for I shall turn back the captivity of the land as at first, declares Yahuwah. So you see, he shall turn back the captivity of the land. So even though the land right now is the land that is supposedly in freedom, they are not in freedom. Because if they did not have an iron dome, they would have already been destroyed by now, because their enemies are against them. And so, yes, there is joy, and there is voices of gladness, and there is the voice of a bridegroom and the voice of a bride. But understand, they're not living in the time of what is spoken of here. And so, because it's not the fullness of the house that needs to return, there's only a partial fulfillment. Thus said Yahuwah of hosts, in this place which is dried up without man and without beast, and in all its cities, there shall once again be a home of shepherds, causing the flocks to lie down. So you see, it shall be a home of shepherds. So we are going to not have dumb dogs, the shepherds leading the people astray, but we are going to have shepherds that will take care of the people, that will love the people, that will love the Father, that will be able to be there to embrace and teach the people the right ways. In the cities of the mountains, in the cities of the low country, and in the cities of the south, in the land of Benjamin, in the places around Jerusalem, in the cities of Yehudah, and the flocks once again pass under the hand of him who counts them, declares Yahuwah. See, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when I shall establish the good word which I have promised to the house of Israel and to the house of Yehudah. I want you to see. Have you seen every time the promises have been spoken? From chapter 31, he keeps bringing up the two houses, the two houses, the two houses, the house of Israel, the house of Judah. Because right now, from the time of King Solomon, when King Solomon died, there came his son Jeroboam. From the time of Jeroboam, that came about, and Rehoboam, well, actually Rehoboam being, it's Rehoboam that is King Solomon's son. From Rehoboam, the house was split. And then the father rose up Jeroboam. But Jeroboam once again took the power to his head. He took power to his head. And then he decided to go astray, and then once again brought the people into idolatry. And this is when the idolatry really happened, and then Israel was totally dispersed throughout the nations of the world, to totally lose the ways of the Father completely. They went completely astray. They went and became heathen. But you see, Judah remained faithful. And so that's why there was a remnant that remained faithful, and we are going to understand this remnant today. And there was a remnant of Judah that's remained faithful to make sure that they still kept the Sabbath and kept the feasts and kept the ways of the Father. Whether they added to his word, they're still keeping his word to a degree, because there had to be one that comes from that house. So now he's saying, you see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah. And verse 15, in those days and at that time, I cause a branch of righteousness to spring forth for David, and he shall do right ruling and righteousness in the earth. So who is this? And so we go back again to Isaiah chapter 11. Let's go back again to Isaiah chapter 11, because we just read this on Shabbat. And so if we read from Isaiah chapter 11 verses 1 to 5, it says, and a rod shall come forth from the stump of Yishai, and a sprout from the roots shall be fruitful. The spirit of Yahuwah shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yahuwah, and shall make him breathe in the fear of Yahuwah. And he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and shall decide with straightness for the meek ones of the earth, and shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and slay the wrong with the breath of his lips. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and trustworthiness the girdle of his waist. How amazing. And who is that? Who is that? None other than Messiah Yahushua. So what was the Father saying? You see, when Messiah Yahushua comes, that's why it's only through Yahushua that we can gather the full house of the house of Judah and the house of Israel. If there is no Yahushua, then there is no house, because it must be gathered by him. Because he's saying, and at that time, I cause a branch of righteousness to bring forth. So you see, only Yahushua can bring true righteousness. Only through him, because he's the one that works it in us both to will and to do his good pleasure. In those days, Yehudah shall be saved. You see, there you go. Yehudah needs to be saved because Yehudah is the one today who is not saved. Yehudah is the one today who has not received Messiah Yahushua. That is why Yehudah needs to be saved. That's why we have to repent, because we, as the so-called believers, as the so-called people that were calling themselves Christians, have actually done an injustice to the Jewish people because they gave them a counterfeit Messiah. They gave them a Messiah that didn't walk the ways of Torah, that didn't walk in righteousness. They didn't show them the right Messiah. They showed them a counterfeit Messiah that was idolatrous in every way, that eats all unclean food, that keeps all pagan feasts. Now we must understand there is to be a righteous branch, the true Messiah. And that is why we, as the believers, must repent, because we have shown them the wrong Messiah, a counterfeit Messiah. And that is why they haven't received him. But when the true people of Yahuwah rise up, filled with Messiah, you see, that's why I know that's why the Father needs the people that are the house of Israel to return to that land, in order for the people of Yehudah to see truth. Provoke them to jealousy. You see, the younger brother had to provoke the older brother to jealousy. The older brother was living in the house with the prodigal son. You see, the prodigal son, remember, the younger son left. But when he came back, he provoked the older brother to jealousy. Why? Because you see, the older brother was living in the father's house, but as a slave. And that's the Jewish people today, with all their added things that they've added to the Torah of Abba Yahuwah. And so they live in the father's house, but they live as a slave. They are bound by their doctrines. They are bound by their religious systems. And yet the Christians now come along and they take away. And now they bring them a counterfeit Messiah. And so this is why we sit where we are. And so he says, in those days Yehudah shall be saved, and Jerusalem dwell in safety. And this is that which shall be proclaimed to her. Yahuwah, our righteousness. Yahuwah, Tzidkenu. That is who he is. Yahuwah Tzidkenu. Yahuwah, our righteousness. Because tzaddik is righteousness. It's righteousness. And what is righteousness? Everything to do to upholding ways of Torah, walking out his Torah, not being legalistic about Torah, but being able to have Torah written upon the tablets of our heart and allowing ourselves to be able to walk it out with the Ruach of Yahuwah. For thus said Yahuwah for David, there is not to seize a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel. So you see, listen carefully. That's why he's allowed Yehudah to be faithful to a degree. That's why he says he didn't divorce Yehudah. He divorced Israel. And now he's bringing Israel back. But Yehudah said, Judah was even more treacherous than their sister Israel. We read in Jeremiah chapter 3. Even more treacherous, because she went and fornicated like an adulterous woman all over the place. And this is exactly what they're still doing, having to fornicate with everything else. And oh my goodness, we won't even go there. And thus says Yahuwah, for David there is not to cease a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel. Why? Because at the end of the day, the Father is going to bring a root, which is going to be Yahushua, that comes from the tribe of Yehudah. And for the priests, the Levites, there is not to cease a man to offer ascending offerings before me, to kindle grain offerings, and to slaughter continually. So you see, at the end of the day, the Father is not going to have a Levitical priesthood now. He's going to have a priesthood of those that are offering him the sacrifices of their praise and their worship and their own lives. Because what did he do? He destroyed that temple. And he said, not one stone will be able to be put on each other again. Because now he wants a temple made of He doesn't want a temple made of man's hands, but he wants a temple made of flesh. And the word of Yahuwah came to Jeremiah, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, if you could break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so that there be not day and night in their season. So if you can break the covenant with day and night, because why? There is day, there is night. Doesn't matter what you do. Day and night is always there. The sun rises and the sun sets, and the sun rises and the sun sets. That is the way the Father ordained it. You cannot break the covenant with day and night. He says, then my covenant also be broken. Then my covenant could also be broken with David, my servant, so that he shall not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites, the priests, my attendants. So you know what? The Father will once again have his Levites. Not those that you see today, because those Levitical priests, they went astray. They were treacherous. That is why already Yochanan, John the immerser, Yochanan the immerser was supposed to have been in the line of being priesthood. Did you see what he did with Jeremiah? Jeremiah was supposed to have been in the line of being priesthood, yet he didn't allow him to go in that direction. Instead, he said, come aside. Let me rather make you a prophet. But I just want to show you in Isaiah chapter 66. Let's just see Isaiah chapter 66 that we can go read from verses 20 to 21. And it says, and they shall bring all their brothers as an offering to Yahuwah out of all the nations, on horses and in chariots and in litters, on the mules, on the camels, to my set-apart mountain, Jerusalem, declares Yahuwah, as the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel in the house of Yahuwah. And from them too I shall take for priests, for Levites, declares Yahuwah. So guess what? He is going to have his own priesthood. And if you don't want to believe that this is future, just look at verses 15. For look, Yahuwah comes with fire and with chariots. So this is Isaiah chapter 66, verses 15. And for look, Yahuwah comes with fire and with chariots, like a whirlwind, to render his displeasure with burning and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword, Yahuwah shall judge all flesh, and the slain of Yahuwah shall be many. And that is what is coming. And then what does he say? Then he's telling you that he's going to be able to bring all your brothers as an offering to Yahuwah out of all the nations on horses and in chariots. And then what does he say? And from them too I shall take for priests, for Levites, declares Yahuwah. So he will have a new priesthood, a new Levitical priesthood. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahuwah, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from new moon to new moon, from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahuwah. So guess what? We will have to understand the moon cycles. From new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, we will have to understand Sabbath. And so what does he say? Let's continue to read in Jeremiah, because listen to how interesting it's going to get, because now you've read there that he says, again, from new moon to new moon is going to then all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahuwah. So he's going to make his things stand, and there's still going to be new moons. So nothing is going to be done away with in the time of the millennial reign. So now let's continue to read our Jeremiah. So in Jeremiah chapter 22, it says, as the host of the heavens is not counted, nor the sand of the sea measured, so I increase the descendants of David, my servant, and the Levites who attend upon me. So you see, what does he say? I am going to increase the descendants of David. Why? Because he's increasing us right now. He's increasing the descendants of David. Why? Because we are turning to the root of Jesse, to the root Yeshai, who is Yoshua, and more descendants are being added to the house. And servants and the Levites. So you see, he's going to have his Levites. He's going to have his priests. So even out of these, he will have his set-apart priesthoods. He will raise up a priesthood. those set apart unto him, who attend upon me. So see, what are those priests responsible to do? What are those Levites responsible to do? To attend upon me. And the word of Yahuwah came to Jeremiah, saying, have you not observed what these people have spoken, saying, the 2 clans which Yahuwah has chosen have been rejected by him, so they have despised my people, no more to be a nation before them. But listen to what he says in verse 25. So this is what the people are saying. Oh, he despised his people. He sent them away. But listen to what he says in verse 25. Thus said Yahuwah, if my covenant is not with day and night. So understand, just like he made a covenant with day and nights. And if I have not appointed the laws of the heavens and the earth. So you see, the heavens and the earth have laws, and that is why we looked in Genesis chapter 1 verses 14. In Genesis chapter 1 verses 14, it turns around and it says that he put sun, moon and stars on the fourth day, on the fourth day, understand, on the day of where Yeshua comes from, the fourth tribe, which is the fourth candle of the menorah representing Yeshua himself. On the fourth day, the door, the dalet, the door that was open for us. This is the very thing that he brings. And in Genesis chapter 1 verses 14 it says, and Elohim said, let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens, to separate day from night, and let them be for signs, appointed times, and for days, and for years. So he put his laws, not man-made rules and customs and traditions. Now man wants to be able to set his New Year's according to barley harvests. He says he put laws. He put day, he put night, he put the laws in the heavens. And this is the laws that he did in Genesis chapter 1 verses 14. On the fourth day, he put the signs in the heavens for laws. And then if we look and see where he turns around and when he says laws, which laws? The laws of the moon. Now, if you have a look and we go look at Psalm 104:19. Let's just quickly go to Psalm 104:19 because we didn't discuss this in when he spoke in Jeremiah 31 where he said the laws of the moon. You must understand, moon has laws, and now we want to just do away with the moon and just follow a calculated calendar, and we want to follow an Enoch calendar. But you see, when the Father is going to bring restoration, the Father needs to restore everything to its original design. And so in Psalm 104 verses 19 it says, he made the moon for appointed times and the sun knows it's going down. So you see, the moon is the very thing that is for the appointed times. It's for his Moedim. That is the seasons. The moon is what is establishing the seasons for him to be able to establish the appointed times. Why? Because he says from new moon to new moon you will come and worship the Father. So the moon is the very thing that is establishing the Moedim. And the sun establishes the seasons that we need. And so that's why he's telling you that if you make a covenant, if my covenant is not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the laws of the heavens and the earth. So who are we to go and change his laws that he's put with the heavenly bodies that he put there? It's not for us to worship it, but it's for us to understand it was put there as signs on the fourth day. So he says, then I would also reject the descendants of Yaakov. So if we can change those laws, then he will reject the descendants of Yaakov and David, my servant, so that I should not take of his descendants to be rulers over the descendants of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. For I shall turn back their captivity and have compassion on them. Praise Abba Yahuwah. He is going to do this, beloveds of the King. This is not a man-made thing. This is a Yah-made thing. It's his ways. It's not man's ways. It's Abba Yahuwah's ways. And we will come back to his ordinances and to what he's already put in scripture from the beginning. So may Abba bless you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Shalom, shalom.